saying, "Ye shall not burn me," and spits on the high priest, and this kind of firework, this kind of gob of fire rains down from the trees and hits the high priest in his hat, which was both, really impressive and also really, I thought it was kind of stupid.
And is the place kind of quiet other than the events that are going on? I mean, all these people, the thousands that are there, are they like hushed?
Yeah, well, and this is the thing, that amazed me most of all looking back at Bohemian Grove, and this is where I really agree with Alex, After we got out of the Grove, Alex released his film, Dark Secrets Inside Bohemian Grove, where he said it was occultic, and it might be actual human sacrifice, and he kind of went around America telling people this, and then I released my book, Them, and I also put, our film out on Channel 4 TV, and I went around Britain saying, "Oh, it's just immature, it's just stupid, it's so we had very different interpretations of it. But one day, I was in Belfast actually giving a talk, and I remember this very clearly. I was standing on stage, and I was thinking, what am I doing, standing here as a kind of self-appointed defender of the Bush's proclivity towards mock human sacrifice? What am I doing saying, "Oh, it's nothing"? I don't know that it's nothing. And the thing that I remember most of all was what Alex had said, which was that the people in the crowd, the people sitting among us, were really, really into it. They were rubbing their hands and they were going, "Burn him, burn him." And this was really true. The people in the crowd, at least the people in the crowd, were just as into the ritual as...
And I bet they were all multimillionaires.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I don't know if all of them were, but, we know that Bohemian Grove attracts, very wealthy, important, powerful people. I don't know if all thousands are wealthy, important people, but there's certainly a lot of them. And they were really into it, and I just thought, this is nuts. Our leaders, strike me as nuts. That they would want to spend their summer vacation having a mock human sacrifice, even if all it is that they're burning, all their cares in the world. It's so kind of weird mix of, paganism and Broadway.
I mean, do you think these people are Satanists, John?
No, and this is where me and Alex differ. And I know that Alex thinks that the First Earth Battalion and all the stuff I spoke about in the first hour, with the men who stare at goats, is all to do with the occult and Satan. And I don't believe that, because I think if you start thinking that about our leaders, what you're forgetting, the conclusion I have come to, I've been doing this for like 7 or 8 years now, both with them and with the men who stare at goats, and the conclusion I've come to is that our leaders can be nuts, and they can be fallible, and their minds can take them, they get themselves, just like us, they can get into this kind of bubble of irrational thought, and inside the bubble, it makes absolute sense to General Stubblebine that it's possible, head of Army Intelligence, to walk through his wall, or it makes absolute sense that you can kill a goat just by staring at it. So I don't believe this is like knowing occultish, although, Satanism, I believe that it's this kind of bubble of nutty irrational thought that manifests itself not just on the fringes of society, but also at the heart of power.
Did you ever see the movie Eyes Wide Shut? That old movie?
I did. And, I got friendly with a lot of Kubrick's people, his wife and his executive producer.
They were in red robes, too. Sounds a little like the Bohemian Grove.
Well, I sent Jan Harlan, the producer of Eyes Wide Shut, my Bohemian Grove film, because I always wondered, actually, whether Kubrick, who was great at research, knew all about Bohemian Grove. And Jan was amazed by it and said
he died before he finished that movie, too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true. But Jan said that Bohemian Grove, that they didn't know about Bohemian Grove when they made Eyes Wide Shut. They the first Jan had heard of Bohemian Grove was, 2 years ago when I sent him my video.
What is your take then, John, overall, of Bohemian Grove? Why they go, what they get out of this? I mean, for it to be a summertime party, that's a little strange.
Yeah, it's it's really intense. You know, the people there were like really into it, and it was very kind of, is it orgiastic or orgiastic, however you pronounce it. It was like that. It was, you know, all that kind of public urination, and you know, there was like a lot of sort of hyperventilating around the time that the papier-mâché effigy was thrown into this fire. It was kind of weird. I mean, there's no doubt about it. I don't believe that it was, you know, an occultist ritual. But what I do believe is that if it was people letting their hair down, they were letting their hair down in an extremely strange and intense way. And that was the question, really, that led me to write The Men Who Stare at Goats. I mean, you know, why do they do this kind of thing?
The Men Who Stare at Goats. I still love that title.
It's a great title. And by the way, that nowadays, going back briefly to The Men Who Stare at Goats, Guy Savelli, you asked earlier if this stuff was alive again, and Guy Savelli told me, and I believe him, that he started going down to Fort Bragg again with an animal. And I said to him, is it a goat? And he said, no. And I said, what kind of animal is it? And he said he wouldn't tell me. And I said, is it a cheap animal, easy to purchase? And he said, yes. And I said, is it a hamster? And he said, I can neither confirm nor deny that. So I assume
something like
that Guy has taken hamsters to Fort Bragg, and Special Forces soldiers are now standing around staring at the hamster.
Well, something's going on.
So maybe I should have called it The Men Who Stare at Hamsters.
Well, John, where does all this take you next?
You know, I don't know. I wish I did, because then I'd be writing another book.
They've left you alone, right? You haven't been followed by the Men in Black yet, again?
Well, there's been a bit of trouble since the book.
Oh, really?
Came out.
Tell me. What happened?
Well, just a bit, really. I mean, some of the people in the book decided to deny that they ever met me, some of the colonels and generals and so on. And they told some journalists that they hadn't met me.
Well, they didn't expect the book, or what happened?
Well, it began as a TV series. And in fact,
Right.
It was broadcast as a TV series in the UK. And it was only about halfway through that I decided to write a book. And I think what probably happened was that because they didn't expect a book to come out, they kind of thought maybe the Jon Ronson who wrote the book is a different John to the John who interviewed them for the TV series. But what certainly did happen was that a bunch of them said that they'd never met me. And I had to tell a whole bunch of journalists a few months ago, you know, really I did meet them. And not only did I meet them, but I filmed my time with them. And I've got it all on film. So it kind of went away, and they're no longer saying it. But that was kind of
pretty difficult to deny they ever met you when you got them on videotape.
Yeah, I kind of figured, you know, these are sort of military intelligence people, you know, high up. If they're going to try and discredit me, why discredit me with something that's so easy to refute? Because, you know, I've got 100 hours of footage of me hanging around with these guys. By the way, you know, something we never talked about, which I will if you'd like me to, is how all this came to be, all the goat staring and the paranormal stuff and the kind of sound weapons.
Yeah, we've got about a minute and a half before the break. Go ahead.
Okay, well, basically, it was because of Vietnam. Jim Channon, just a regular lieutenant colonel in Vietnam, realized that his men were being killed because they were guileless and kind-hearted and were firing high, missing the enemy. The Viet Cong were cunning sharpshooters, but the American soldier wasn't. And so after Vietnam, Jim asked the Pentagon if he could go on a fact-finding mission to teach the American soldier to be more cunning. And the Pentagon agreed, and they sent Jim to California. And Jim spent 2 years in the kind of Esalen-type, you know, New Age communities of California, learning all this, you know, burgeoning New Age human potential stuff, that it was possible to walk through walls and so on. And he put it all in a manual called the First Earth Battalion Manual. And after 2 years, he brought it back to the army. And, you know, in this manual, soldiers would learn to be invisible, they'd learn to walk through walls, they'd learn to blast people with discordant music and so on. And the Pentagon was so taken with these ideas, they were kind of moved by these ideas,